Vision in adults. When you're working with vision, vision is crucial to all that you do, from balance, from cognitive skills, to your life force. I can guarantee you that one day, and I'm hoping this with the Gravity book that's coming out, and you go, what's gravity have to do with vision? I am telling you, covering 21 theories of biological gravity, you will see a difference in all, from cellular viscosity rates to, again, just the living biology. I've covered a ton. The book is really thick, it's dense, but when I believe that if movement lesson and the practices that I offer, that you'll be actually able to tell, like, let's say an adult of my age, checking the filament movements, pre-Alzheimer's. Why Alzheimer's? Shortened gait, lack of peripheral vision, and a lack of palate, the way that you process foods, more chicken and dumplings, that kind of thing. When you're suddenly asking someone, hey, let's go to this new Thai restaurant, but again, they walk like this. I think you're about to see the highest rate of Alzheimer's ever because of the cell phone. It makes you very autistic, cellular, physically. What happens when you're walking around with a cell phone? Shortened gait, lack of peripheral vision, and lack of palate. You move into a lot of your mental emotions, just even stand up for your beliefs, turning red, you know what I mean? All of these kind of things have to do with your movements, but the eyes are really telling to me of how the body itself is processing this information. So there's lots of different tricks that you can do as far as increasing your visual field. But the biggest thing about patching when you're suddenly an adult, first of all, a lot of us have stigmatisms, and it's a very hereditary-based visual thing. Stigmatism is where the eye can go more oval in a horizontal way or vertical way, and it will pull the eye in the way that the vision hits the retina. And sometimes you just need glasses for astigmatism. Right? Your acuity might be fine. So that's why when you get your optical exam, and I'm so anal about that, they're checking for that acuity, right? And then they're checking for the cylinder, right? The cylinder is how your eye is shaped. And it's a 90 degree, and then if it goes to a 20 or to a 170 and so forth, that's the angle of your astigmatism. And then you also have the angle of the eye. So your eyes, again, should be at 90 degree, where if it's off a little bit, and these are the things that you learn, like say in the cognitive vision class, they're more advanced, and I don't just teach them randomly, but that's what they're looking for there. So there's 3 numbers when you're getting an acuity. So when someone comes back to me and say, my child's 2160, I can tell you right now they didn't examine the eyes, right? They examine the eyes with teller cards, which is a black and white card, and what they're looking for is if it's a large stripe, let's say, okay, I just looked at it, right? And if the stripes get thinner until they almost look like it's a gray blob. And so depending on where those thinnesses happen, at some point the child who is, quote, nonverbal, and this is why they're doing it this way, which is, again, just someone who just can't examine a child. You don't need, it's like I give a movement lesson. I don't need your feedback if it was a good lesson or not. I can tell you it was, or wasn't, or where we're at within that conversation of the lesson, depending on the child. I don't need you to say, like, oh, I notice a difference. And with adults, actually, you're more of the chances that you're not, because you fight it. You're judging me until it kicks in. Ask Felipe, prime example. I told him no new projects after first lesson and all that. And he's like, I just wasted my hours. She did nothing to me. And he, a year of rehab with professional players with the Diamondbacks, and he was fixed in 2 lessons. So, and he can long toss again. So, anyway, so vision. When you're working with vision, one of the things, what I love about patching, and this is why I do the patching course for the kids, and this is where I'm a little bit different with patching. How do we improve our cognitive awareness? By comparison. That's just that simple, right? If I know it's blue because I've compared it to red, not because you've just told me it's blue, right? I like lobster versus crab because I've compared the two. You see this with wine connoisseurs, right? A good wine connoisseur, which I am not, can tell you if what the dirt was like that these grapes grew in. Was there lavender? Was there mustard? Was there you know what I mean, rose? Basic, you know, the influence. Where was the sun shining on the hill? Someone is that astute with their wines because why? They've had a lot of wine, right? And they've compared. They've traveled the world, and the world's come to them through wine, and they have that kind of memory, and it's important to them, or they enjoy it. Same thing with travel. You know, I can tell you about Moscow all you want, but until you're actually sitting there watching the sunset over St. Basil's Cathedral, you know, while you're looking at Lenin and the Kremlin and having your caviar and cappuccino at Grump's, do you know what I mean? Like, that means nothing to you. I've enjoyed every minute of that. You know, those kind of things. Again, because I've compared now Moscow to Vienna. You know what I mean? Or those kind of things. Vienna looks like someone took a toothbrush. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the cleanest, like, above, like, you know. Anyway, and I can go on. But that's also my vision, right? That's also the way I look at the world and can see the world. The easiest way that you want someone to think better, and this is where you get really smart kids with movement lesson, because the amount of comparison that's going on. So even as an adult, we get dull to our senses. So why do I start having short-term memory issues, let's say? I'm starting to shrink. My whole life, let's say I was 5'6". Let's say I'm 6 foot tall, right? My whole life. Now I'm starting to shrink, right? So every movement I've made as a kid for about past 40, 50 years was at the 6 foot level. Now I'm at 5'11". Now I'm at 5'10". I'm shrinking. I don't move as much. So I have less visual spatial relationships that I'm using with my system, right? And so, like, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? Oh God, what did I have for breakfast? You know, that kind of thing, right? That happens again because of the visual and the spatial relationship. You go back to the Vitruvian man, you know, the Vitruvian man and so forth like that. That's going back into, you know, we have a certain spatial relationship. And this is why, too, I want babies moving from the day they're born to start increasing the amount of spatial relationships. So with patching, what patching does, and again, this is more for adults, but still what patching does is, first of all, it lets you know how each eye processes information, right? Just like all day long, I'm right-handed. And I've mentioned this before. If I'm going to work on your head in particular, you'll still see me scoot around because I know I'm right-hand dominant. Now, you would know the difference. You're getting a damn good lesson off of my left hand, right? Just as much as my right. But if I know I have to do this really certain things within the inner maxillary, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go right-hand dominant because that's just where I'm at. I can tie a shoe in a certain position, but if I ask you right now, everybody put their hands behind their back, right, and tie a bow, that would be difficult because you don't have that eye-hand coordination, that spatial relationship. Now, I don't have to look at my sneaker right now to tie my shoes. I can be talking to you. But a lot of people do still have to look at their shoes to tie, or they might still do a bunny loop or something like that. Good morning. So there's those kind of things. So when you are patching, and it is for the children as well as the adults, you're not just patching. Like the movement lesson patching program is not about patching and go play with your iPad and go drive a car, right? That's not functional, and that's not going to teach your brain anyway. You really want to stimulate. So if you are going to patch in as an adult, which is highly recommended, and all of you right now, and again, you're not going to want to do a hand patch because you're going to want to, again, you're using muscles and you're going to concentrate on where your arm is. You're going to want to do a physical patch. You can cover an eyeglass or something like that as well. If you are wearing glasses, you do patch when the glasses are on. And so you're going to be working on that to work with your child. So with that, you're going to patch. Now, there are some patching programs, not a big fan of, where they do a center line or midline patch. Why? Again, this is where I come into and I get a little ornery about. I'm really big about what is a proper evaluation, right? And so when you're doing certain things, I don't believe, or certain therapies, I don't think that a lot of therapies have good evaluations, especially because, too, that's why I've just gotten adamant about the vision. If you're working with anyone that doesn't have a clue what a functional vision is on the person you're working with, you need to walk away. It's just too crucial. Again, like I said, Alzheimer's, all of those kind of things, Parkinson's, MS, guys, you can all see it way before it's hitting within the eyes. Neuropathy. I just had like someone, again, because some people call me a witch, and someone's like, oh, they just said I had this neuropathy. And I said, oh, CMT. And they're like, how do you know about CMT? It's like, because there's flavors of neuropathies and how it affects your body, not just your feet. That's a drop foot neuropathy. So when you're patching, you're going to want to patch that way. Now, another way of patching, okay, first you're going to want to find that central vision, right? But at the same time, then you don't want to go beyond that. It's one of the things I'm teaching in the cognitive vision. It's so tempting to sit there and I'm like, you never caught the vision. First thing is like catching a fish. You have to catching someone's attention, right? You have to go through that first. That's what you're looking for. Then you are looking for, again, how my eye sees. Now, there's no depth perception with patching. So don't go catching a ball, those kind of things. But you really want to work on that. And then when the patching's not there, she's also working with the lenses, varifocal lenses, which probably mean that she's got the reading glasses and transitioning into, so the near and far is becoming compromised. But what's becoming compromised, and the one thing that's interesting about the varifocal lenses is the way that the eye has to transition from close to far. Most people don't do it well to begin with. One of the biggest things you'll see with children in the group where the complaint is that they're up and they're cruising, but they can't walk. I can tell you right now they can't walk because their ability to go from a short to long sight is very immature. Right? And if you can't see where you're going, so like I ride motorcycles, right? It's been a while since I've rode a bike. If you actually drive a car with me, right, I have a very long sight, especially into the turn. So if you're riding a bike, the bike goes, because you're dealing now with centripetal force. You've got an engine in between your legs. I happen to have a V-twin because I rode Suzuki's. But depending on the type of engine you have, you need to, if you're in an intersection, you can't, you know what I mean? That V-twin will just cut out on you, and you don't want to have an engine die, and then you've got 450 pounds of wet weight about to tip over in the middle of an intersection. That's not a place where you want to stall out. So with a motorcycle, you have to, again, so let's say if I was going into a turn, I'm not going to be here, and I certainly can't look down because the bike's going to go where you want to go. So when you actually see me, or if you see me drive a car, I've got a long shot. Right, and that's what takes the whole bike or the engine, and you see that on bicycles as well. For those of you who ride bikes, so there's a difference between there's a penny on the ground, man, you're going down, and that's what kids do, and they can't long walk, versus that long. So I'm always, when I'm driving, not only am I watching my peripherals, because again, when you're on a bike, man, people just want to cut you off, and then you've got to have a long vision because you're just seeing what's going on for a long shot. It's very similar with what's going on, but also what's going on with our daily basis. One of the biggest things is if you want to have anti-aging, you've got to work the room. If you go for walks, oh, wow, they have a red door. Oh, there's a bird up in the tree. You want that peripheral vision, and you want to be able to do all of that. With patching, you're also going to see how much you've curved. And now, again, the question is with this now to include with scoliosis. Guys, I can tell you right now, chances of your child having or you having scoliosis when you have a visual problem like that with eye alignment issues goes up, I want to say about 70%. Now, I'm probably the only one that's going to say that outright. That sees a correlation of the eyes being out of balance and hitting the fine motor skills of your back, right? But when, in your case, Cheryl, what I would do with your patching is include now the scoliosis. So when you have the scoliosis, you're going to literally patch, and now you're going to just start adding in just that sway. And at some point, like right now, for me to concentrate on my spine, my vision got very fixed and I'm not seeing you, versus me doing, let me concentrate. So again, now I'm looking at you let's say if I'm patching one eye, and I could do something like that. So you can see just by me doing that, I lost my vision. And that's where with the scoliosis and the stabilization of the back and so forth, and it's very hard to have peripheral vision here versus here. And so that's where you would use your patching with the scoliosis. I covered a lot of grounds. Again, when you're working with movement in general, the more you learn about movement, the more you can facilitate and master movements. Okay, hold on. This is where I don't have my glasses here. So, whoops. All right, I'm going to try and catch what I can. That's the problem is when people send me large text. Yeah, it is invaluable. It really is invaluable. I don't think anybody discusses it in such a way. First of all, with the medical professional, everyone has their body part. You know, like, so you might be a vision specialist, but you're not a cardiologist. You know what I mean? Like, and you might be somewhat familiar with the drug interaction with the two, but you know what I mean? It just doesn't work that way. I'm about functional movement. So movement is a consistency, and then how we move on this planet, and then how we move on the solar system and around this. You know, like my depth of field, my long vision is sick. If you actually sat here and worked with me and saw the stuff that I'm working on right now, you'd be like, what? And a good what? Because that's just where I am. Like, I don't know, again, if it's my architecture background with you know what I mean, that I'm very fortunate with, because I can see stuff. I'm a visionary, and so I can go into three-dimensional. But yeah, that long vision is that. So now to work with something like that, again, you just want to start with here, right? And that's all the stuff we'll do here. That's that short convergence to a passive, then long convergence, right? You're not going to go, you know, you want to eventually do, and I've got videos up on this, you know, where you go a little bit further kind of thing. So you're looking for the ping, but it's that transition. So what does transition mean? So I'm all about transition, to transition from your back to your belly, to your back to sitting, it's the transition. If your child or you do not have those transitional skills, you're starting to get in trouble, right? Well, a lot of old people can't go to restaurants. Why? Because they can't handle the restroom. Right? Their visual field going into that long, dark hallway, into the restroom and coming back out of it. I know my ex-husband he's just shot. He's blind in one eye, and he's just like, why are all these restaurants so dark? And I'm like, dude, you know, it's, I keep trying to tell him it's you. I'm really afraid that the other eye is going. And he insists, you know what I mean? Like, it's just these dark restaurants, or he can't go to the movies anymore. He just can't handle that darkness. And he won't listen that, you know, family. Anyway, they don't listen. So when you're going to things like that, so that's really what it is. So like I said, when you've got a child that's just here, you know, and you're coming to me and say, my kid won't walk, you got to get the vision long. Don't go into throwing aspects. Don't go into that. Remember, when you're testing someone, they already know how to do it. So if you know how to throw, then you can start bringing it in. But if it's especially catching, if it's not there, don't bring it in, because there's a difference of catching from lower quadrant, from upper quadrant. You know what I mean? To straight on, from side. So all of these come into fact. And then if you're really good like Felipe can manage all of this, you know, because he's got to see who's stealing first. He's got to steal who's stealing third. He's got the shortstop. If he starts seeing that outfielder come over, you know what I mean? When I'm looking at it, his vision is sick. But that's what he's played with for so long. It's getting a little dull now that he's been here, because he doesn't play in an open field like that. But again, if you've got a pop ball and you've got bases loaded and who's stealing what, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're working it. A police officer in a crowded, you know, facility, they can spot a bad guy. You know, we all have this talent one way or the other. It's just being able to work with it. So that's really what you would be working on. The best thing to keep your health as your age, you got to keep that peripheral vision. That's just mandatory. And what I mean by that, here, let me move this back. If I'm someone that is worried about, let's say, Alzheimer's, right? So now this is what Alzheimer's starts to look like visually. Right? First of all, they can't walk backwards, right? Or what it looks like is like this. So they have to look down at their feet almost and look straight ahead and down their feet. So that's when you go, hey, did you see Joni over there? What? Who? What? You know? So again, the visual field goes down, and that's when your memory starts to go and those social skills start to go as well. Really, the number one thing you want to be able to do is just being able to just work the room. But you have to be able to do it forwards and backwards. And that would be another one to work on too. So at patching again here, I have scoliosis. Again, look at my visual field with my left eye, same scoliosis versus my right eye, right? And so that's where you would start to play with that. A lot of information you're not usually thinking about yourself. And movement lesson, it's not just about kids, but you know, I mean, most of the people are here to help the kids. We don't think about helping ourselves. And so, but we help everybody here. Our oldest client, I think, is like 95, 96. Life's about moving better. That's all anybody wants. You might have a specific crawl, whatever, but that end goal is, I just want to move better. You know, that's what life's all about. Thanks, guys. See you in a bit.